Brought to you by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services.
Ladies and gentlemen, it's time for...
It's the Real Jonathan Smith Show on Indy's Sports Ticket, 1430 AM and 99.5 HD2.
What's going on? It's the Real Jonathan Smith Show here on Indy's Sports Ticket. Great weekend. A lot of sports. The Fever over 500 for the first time since 2019. A lot of college football. Notre Dame, big win on the road over Texas A&M. IU took care of business. Purdue took care of business. College football in full swing. Florida State's terrible. It's great. I love it. But as great as all that was, I think we all have Sunday circled on our calendars. I have Thursday circled as well because it marks the start of the NFL season. But, man, Colts' first game is Sunday, 1 o'clock against the Houston Texans, starting off with a divisional game. I can't wait. And last week on Friday, I started a final 5-day countdown kind of thing leading up to Colts season called Final 5 Takes. I've got 5 big takes, okay? We're not going small here. We're going big, over-the-top takes of stuff that could happen during the Colts season and stuff that I believe could very possibly will happen. So on Friday, came on the show, and I said that Anthony Richardson would have a 3-to-1 touchdown to turnover ratio between passing touchdowns and rushing touchdowns compared to interceptions and fumbles given away. So that was the first one. My second big Colts take for the season is that Michael Pittman Jr. will not lead the Colts in receiving yards this year. The Colts are better at receiver this year than they were last year. I think there's more depth, there's more explosiveness, there's more just reliability in general. And let's be honest, when we looked at that Miami Colts, the Indianapolis Colts' receivers last year, Michael Pittman Jr. was hands down the Colts' best receiver. Their second best receiver was Josh Downs, who was good, 68 receptions. He was pretty reliable, but he was a rookie. And you're just not going to give a rookie, especially a third-round pick, as many opportunities. So Josh Downs was good in his rookie season, but he wasn't great, and Alec Pierce could only run straight last year. Okay, and look, the Colts are much improved at that position this year. Things are very different. Like, of course, Michael Pittman Jr. is back. He's going to produce. I just don't think it'll be at the same level that he did last year. Okay, Josh Downs should be better in year 2. Adonai Mitchell, he's going to get a lot of reps. He's going to get a lot of opportunities to make plays. Alec Pierce is apparently much improved. He's coming off the best camp that he's had as a Colt. And I think that Anthony Gould is going to have some opportunities to make some big plays as well. Like, that Colts wide receiver room is incredibly deep. And because of that, I think we're going to see Shane Steichen look to leverage different matchups week in and week out. I don't think there's going to be a clear-cut Colts best receiver. Like, I don't think this is going to be a Minnesota Vikings situation where, like, every ball goes to Justin Jefferson. I think we're going to see the wealth kind of spread out quite a bit because all these receivers are good and they can all play multiple positions. Shane Steichen was asked about the wide receiver room yesterday during a press conference, and here's what he had to say about the group.
Yeah, that's a good question. I think within our scheme, with any scheme, you can line guys up wherever you want to. AD obviously played a little bit outside. He's been playing a little bit inside for us. Downs can play. He played inside for us. He can play outside. Alec can play inside, play outside. So I think the versatility of that group in a whole is really good. And we can put those guys where need be throughout a game plan that we feel really comfortable with all those guys' skill sets. So feel really good about the wide receiver group for sure.
That was Colts head coach Shane Steichen talking about the wide receiver room and just how much depth and how interchangeable they all are. And that is, I think, a big advantage for the Colts this year because Shane Steichen is a really good play caller who knows how to exploit matchups. I think we're going to see all the receivers line up in just about every single spot so that the Colts can get a matchup that they like and hopefully exploit that. But back to the heart of my take of Michael Pittman will not lead the Colts in receiving yards this year. Because the Colts are so much better at receiver this year, Michael Pittman Jr. just isn't going to have the same impact on the offense. Okay, like he was targeted so many times last year because he was really the only reliable receiver that the Colts had for much of the year. Obviously, Josh Downs eventually earned that trust down the stretch, but for most of the year, it was all Michael Pittman Jr. Now, he's still going to have an impact on the offense because he is a good player, and the Colts are going to try to get him the ball. I do think he'll lead the Colts in receptions, but I don't think he'll lead in receiving yards. When I look at Michael Pittman Jr., and I think about what he does well, he is an intermediate possession receiver. Okay, he's not going to win deep down the field. I don't think he has the speed to do that. If he's running, little drag routes underneath, I don't think that he has the after catch ability to make a catch and then make a couple guys miss and pick up 12 yards. I don't think that that's who he is. I think he's hey man, he can run, a 10-yard in route and he's going to figure out how to create space there. And once he catches it, he's probably going to go down pretty quickly. He's just not a big play receiver, either after the catch or before the catch when he's winning deep downfield. Meanwhile, when we look at the rest of this Colts receiving room, they are big play threats. Like Josh Downs, that's a guy who runs a 4.4 and can make big plays down the field. A.D. Mitchell's like 6'2", and he runs a 4.3 and is more than capable of making plays down the field. We've seen Alec Pierce, despite the slow start to his career, we've seen him make plays, 40 yards downfield. And that's valuable. And they all provide this extra oomph that Michael Pittman Jr. doesn't really provide. And Shane Steichen, when you look at his offenses throughout his career, when he was in San Diego with, the Chargers and Justin Herbert and Phillip Rivers, and then you look at him when he was in Philadelphia, Shane Steichen wants to create explosive plays. He said that, and he has also said that there weren't enough explosive plays last year. And he's right. There weren't. And when I look at Michael Pittman Jr., he's not a big play threat. It's 3rd and 8. Somebody's got to get open. Who's going to get open? Probably Michael Pittman Jr. So he's very valuable to this Colts offense because he possesses that skill. He's going to have a positive impact. But I just don't think he's going to make big plays down the field, which will hurt his total yardage output. Okay? Like he's a good player, but really there are two reasons why I don't think he'll be the Colts' leading receiver in terms of yards. He's not a big play guy. I've said that. Josh Downs, A.D. Mitchell, even Alec Pierce, those are the three guys that are going to make plays 20, 25, 30 yards down the field. And because of that, they're probably going to have more receiving yards than Michael Pittman Jr. Okay? The second reason is because the quarterback is different. When we look at Gardner Minshew and we look at Anthony Richardson, obviously, Anthony Richardson, big, strong, fast, all those things. Gardner Minshew, just not the athlete that Anthony Richardson is. But when it comes to their ability to throw the football, Anthony Richardson is very different from Gardner Minshew. Minshew is much more polished than Anthony Richardson. Okay, in terms of being able to layer balls over the middle and all those things. And a polished quarterback, I think, bodes best for Michael Pittman Jr. Okay, Gardner Minshew found Michael Pittman Jr. over the middle a lot last year and on great timing routes on the outside. I don't think that that's what they're going to have Anthony Richardson do because, as we all know, he's not very polished. A lot of the throws that we're going to see from Anthony Richardson, I think they're going to be safe, short throws with opportunities for guys to run after the catch. And that doesn't really play to Michael Pittman Jr.'s strengths. That plays to the strengths of Josh Downs and A.D. Mitchell. The other thing that I think we're going to see from Anthony Richardson is deep throws like down the field. I think we're really going to see the Colts try to stretch the defense this year over the top. And A.D. Mitchell's a 4.3 guy. Josh Downs is a 4.4 guy. Michael Pittman Jr. is neither one of those things, okay? He's not slow, but he just doesn't have burner speed like Mitchell and Downs do. So that's kind of another area where he's not going to get to capitalize as much, right? He's not going to win down the field with speed. Once again, Michael Pittman Jr. is this intermediate 3rd and 8, a guy needs to get open kind of guy. So because of that, because of how I think the Colts are going to try to throw the ball this year, just doesn't play to Michael Pittman Jr.'s strengths. So because of that, I think his numbers go down. Look, he's going to continue to be productive. Okay, I'm not saying he's only going to catch 30 balls for 300 yards. No, he'll probably catch somewhere between 80 and 90 balls for somewhere between 8 and 900 yards receiving. I just think that someone like Josh Downs, it's probably who I'd bet on to lead the Colts in receiving yards this year. I think he'll be the guy that's closer to 1,000 just because when we look at what Anthony Richardson does well, I think that Josh Downs' skill set better lines up with that. So after 3 consecutive years of leading the Colts in receiving yards, Michael Pittman Jr. will not be the Colts' leading receiver this year in terms of yards. That's take number 2 of my final 5 takes on the Colts season this year. Now, I'm doing the same thing for just the NFL in general. I'm giving 5 final NFL takes. This is my 3rd one. Last week, I said that Stephon Diggs would make the Texans worse and they would have a losing record on the year. And then I said that the Jacksonville Jaguars were going to win the AFC South because I believe in the Jags. Now, my 3rd NFL take for the season. The Chiefs and Lions will be the 1 seeds in the AFC and the NFC. Let's start with the Chiefs. This feels like an easy prediction to make, but the Chiefs were the 3 seed in the AFC last year, despite being second to last in turnover differential at the end of last season at -11. I've talked a decent amount about turnover differential and how a lot of that is just a luck stat. The Chiefs will not be second to last in turnover differential this year. They're going to be much better in that area. And because of that, their record is going to improve. And they went 11-6 last year. Okay, I've got them pinned somewhere around 13-ish wins, barring any injury from Patrick Mahomes. And when we look at their turnovers, they're going to be so easily fixed. First off, the Chiefs gave away 11 fumbles last year. That's a lot of fumbles to give away. That is an abnormal amount of fumbles to lose on a season. So that number should just get better by luck. And Patrick Mahomes threw 14 interceptions last year, which is nuts. And I would be willing to bet 2 things. 1, they don't lose 11 fumbles this year. And 2, with the improvements at wide receiver, the Chiefs passing game is going to be better, and Mahomes won't throw that many interceptions. Just looking at their receiving core this year, it's year 2 of Rashee Rice, who still hasn't been suspended, so I don't think he's going to be. Xavier Worthy scares teams with his speed, got to play 2 safeties and all those things. Juju Smith-Schuster is back. This is a move that I don't think people are paying enough attention to. He was really good for them 2 years ago. He knows the offense. He's another reliable 3rd down kind of receiver, so he's back. They got rid of Kadarius Toney. That's an upgrade in and of itself. They are much improved. There were some offensive line questions, but based off of all the reports out of training camp, the Chiefs drafted their left tackle of the future, apparently. So the offense is going to be better than it was last year because of the improvements on the offensive line and the fact that the receivers are going to be better this year. Defensively, they lost L'Jarius Sneed. He's not playing for the Titans. Should be playing for the Colts, but, Chris Ballard, way too conservative. Anyway, they still have Trent McDuffie, who's one of the better cornerbacks in the NFL. They have Nick Bolton, who's one of the best linebackers in the NFL. And Chris Jones is the best interior defensive lineman in the NFL now that Aaron Donald has retired. Okay, Steve Spagnuolo, still there, has won more Super Bowls as a coordinator than anyone else in the history of the NFL with 4. That defense that Kansas City has is going to continue to be elite. Okay, the offense is going to be better. The turnover differential won't be as bad. They are the best team in the AFC, and they're going to be the 1 seed. In the NFC, the Lions are going to be the 1 seed. They kept their 2 coordinators from last year, which is shocking. Everyone thought at least one of them, specifically Ben Johnson, their offensive coordinator, would leave for a head coaching job. Some people thought both would leave. That's kind of where I thought that they would wind up. But they keep both of their coordinators. They didn't have any offensive holes last year, and all those guys are back. And they improved their secondary, which was the weakness of their defense last year. They have arguably the best roster in the NFL, better than San Francisco. Okay? They have probably the best coordinator combination in the NFL. I think Campbell is a really good head coach. I love how aggressive he is. His ability to get his players to play hard is impressive. It's borderline uncanny, and it is an incredibly important skill to have. I know that we think that guys just kind of play hard every week, but that's not always true. Like, we see guys quit and give up all the time in professional sports. Just watch the White Sox. Okay, so Dan Campbell's ability to get his players to commit and play hard is important, and that's something that we know that they're going to do. I know that Jared Goff is limited, but he's gotten better. I think that when we think about Jared Goff, we think about the fact that Sean McVay wanted to get rid of him, but he's ended up in Detroit, and Ben Johnson and Dan Campbell have done a great job of coaching him up and bringing him along. He's improved. And look, Ben Johnson is the offensive coordinator. I would argue he's the best offensive coordinator in the NFL. And when we look at Jared Goff's production last year, it's hard to ignore how good he was. He was second in passing yards last year with over 4,500 passing yards. He was fourth in touchdown passes with 30. His touchdown to interception ratio was 5-2. He played great last year. And most importantly, Jared Goff, in and of himself, has a favorable schedule. He plays in a dome every single week, except for week 9 when they're on the road at Lambeau. That'll be tough. Week 16 when they're on the road at Chicago. That'll be tough. And week 17 when they're on the road at San Francisco. Outside of that, his other 15 games are in a dome. So he's going to light it up when it comes to his ability to throw the football. And that is an advantage that the Lions have and will be able to capitalize on. They have an awesome roster. They have great coordinators. Jared Goff is a good, solid NFL quarterback. They're going to be the 1 seed in the NFC. And look, they almost beat the Lions, not the Lions. They almost beat the 49ers last year and played in the Super Bowl. Like that's how good this Lions team was last year. And they're roster-wise, they're better. Another year of Jared Goff, another year of Ben Johnson. I'm telling you, the Lions will be the 1 seed in the NFC. And because of this, because the Chiefs will be the 1 seed, and because the Lions will be the 1 seed, that means that either Jared Goff or Patrick Mahomes will win MVP. The quarterback of the 1 or 2 seed in the AFC or NFC usually wins the MVP award. Okay. 7 of the last 10 players to win MVP have been the quarterback of the 1 seed in either the AFC or the NFC. We know that Mahomes is going to put up numbers. Okay. Like, that's not a mystery. But so is Jared Goff. Okay. I don't think I have to sell you on the idea that Patrick Mahomes could possibly win MVP. I think everyone knows that. But for Goff, I kind of feel like I do. Once again, here are his stats from last year. 4,500 passing yards, second in the NFL. Fourth in touchdown passes with 30. And his touchdown to interception ratio was 5-2. All those numbers, by the way, better than Patrick Mahomes. He is capable of putting up better numbers than Mahomes because he did it last year. And he's capable of putting up MVP level numbers like he did last year. If the Lions are the 1 seed, Jared Goff could very easily win MVP, which is a wild thought. Insane thought to have. Coming up, top of the hour, Zach Hicks of Locked On Colts is going to join me as he does every Tuesday at 11. Going to be a blast to have him on, man. Love having him on. We're going to talk upcoming Sunday, Colts, Texans. Going to be a blast. I'm so ready for that game. I'm ready for Thursday night, Chiefs, Ravens. That game's going to be wildly entertaining. I'm so glad football's back. So glad football's back. So Zach Hicks joining me top of the hour to talk Colts. Top 10 Tuesday. Got a great subject for today. Top 10 Tuesday is going to be awesome. That's coming up at 10:40. When we come back, though, here in about 4 minutes, Caitlin Clark got to be the unanimous Rookie of the Year. She should be. She crushed Angel Reese on Friday. Big win on Sunday. Got some fever stuff to work through when we come back here in 4 minutes.
The best takes, stories, and entertainment. It's The Real Jonathan Smith Show on Indy Sports Ticket, 1430 AM and 99.5 HD2.
The Real Jonathan Smith Show here on Indy's Sports Ticket. Top of the hour, 11 o'clock. Zach Hicks of Locked On Colts is set to join me. We're going to talk Colts' first game coming up Sunday, taking on the Houston Texans at 1 o'clock. I'm excited. I'm so intrigued by what this team is going to look like, especially in the secondary, but really looking forward to seeing how they play. But we had a pretty great weekend of sports, didn't we? Oh, so great. Capped off by Boston College, giving it to Florida State, which always makes me happy. Can't stand Florida State, can't stand Mike Norvell. So thank you, Boston College, for making my Monday night so wonderful. But, a lot of college football. But while college football was going on, we also had some Indiana Fever basketball happening as well. And to the surprise of no one, Caitlin Clark dominated Angel Reese on Friday night. It's not a surprise at all. Once again, we sit back and we have so much anticipation for this Caitlin Clark Angel Reese matchup, the Indiana Fever against the Chicago Sky, and everyone's tuned in and excited, and it didn't pay off because Caitlin Clark outplayed Angel Reese in every facet of the game as the Indiana Fever beat the Chicago Sky by 19. And the best moment of the game is the Fever have the game in hand. Caitlin Clark walks off the floor and begins to pump up the crowd. And it's so great. It's so incredibly petty. It's just like this little small thing that she did just to kind of remind Angel Reese that, hey, this is not a me and you thing. This is a me thing. People are showing up because of Caitlin Clark, not because of Angel Reese. And if you watched the game on Friday and you heard the crowd roar as Caitlin Clark walked off the floor and, waved her arms up to get the crowd going, it just solidified it of, yeah, they're here to see her, not Angel Reese. But you already knew that. You already knew that. And man, Caitlin Clark she torched the Sky. 31 points, 8 of 14 from the floor, 5 of 9 from 3, 12 assists, 10 of 11 from the free throw line. I mean, it was just an absolute clinic put on by Caitlin Clark. The passing was incredible. Shooting the ball, from 30 feet out, knocking them down. She hit this step back over, the Cordoza chick who's like, super tall or whatever. Hit it right in her face. It was electric. It was high level basketball from Caitlin Clark. Okay, she showed every facet of her game that had people excited for her in the WNBA. The shooting, the passing, the finishing. I mean, she's just incredible. Lighting up the scoreboard, and I love it when Reese and Clark play because we see this extra gear from Caitlin Clark. It's just like this reminder of, hey guys, I'm way better than she is, and she is way better than Angel Reese is. It's quite frankly not close. While Caitlin Clark cruised to 31 points and 12 assists, Angel Reese played garbage time so that she could barely earn a double-double of 10 points and 11 rebounds. The stat padding, it's just embarrassing. And what's even more embarrassing are the people who are going to defend it. The people who are going to have the take of, well, Angel Reese did set the WNBA rebounding record this year, and she did have all these double-doubles as a rookie, so we should vote her for Rookie of the Year. Those people should be embarrassed when they make that vote, because there are people that are going to vote on Rookie of the Year, and they are going to vote for Angel Reese because of the rebounding and because of the double-doubles. Those people should be embarrassed of themselves. Simply embarrassed. I'm sorry, but I refuse to believe that a professional basketball player, male or female, that can't make a layup should deserve any sort of recognition for Rookie of the Year. The rebounding thing is cool. Congratulations. You play hard. But that's not what the Rookie of the Year award's for. It's not. Rookie of the Year goes to the best player, not the one who plays the hardest, even though that's a good attribute to have. But come on now. It's Caitlin Clark. She should be the unanimous Rookie of the Year. She should not win MVP. She should get some votes, but she should not win MVP. It belongs to A'ja Wilson of the Las Vegas Aces. She had 41 and 17 the other night. Like she is the best player in the WNBA. A'ja Wilson is. Like she's just incredible. She deserves to be the MVP as well as Caitlin Clark has played this year. We do have to remember that like you have to look at the entire season. And when we look at the whole season, from beginning to end, A'ja Wilson's been dominant, whereas Caitlin Clark has been the best rookie from the beginning. She has not been the best player. You know, that first 3 or 4 weeks of the season, she kind of struggled, right? And then, you know, week 5, week 6, she kind of figured things out, and it's just been this snowball effect of better and better play every time she's walked out on the floor since. But, you know, the first month of the year for Clark was pretty rough. So because of that, she shouldn't win MVP. Okay, that should clearly go to A'ja Wilson. But Clark should definitely be the unanimous Rookie of the Year. We'll see if that happens or not. Then, after beating Angel Reese, who once again needed garbage time to barely get a double-double, after beating Angel Reese in the Chicago Sky on Friday, the Indiana Fever played against the Dallas Wings, who beat the Fever just before, you know, the All-Star break and the Olympic break and all that. And it looked like they were going to do it again. It really did. It looked like the Dallas Wings were once again, you know, this is one of the worst teams in the WNBA. It looked like they were going to spoil the Fever's opportunity of being over 500. And then Caitlin Clark was like, nah, guys, I got this. 28 points, 10 of 19 shooting, 12 assists. She had 7 turnovers, but, you know, if you have 12 assists, the turnovers mean less and less to me. Okay, like she was dominant once again. Okay, Caitlin Clark is incredible. Okay, she is better than advertised. Better than. And she's advertised in a pretty nice light. You know what I mean? She's incredible. And while we continue to give, and rightfully so, while we continue to give Caitlin Clark praise that she deserves, we have to remember that Kelsey Mitchell is playing some of the best basketball of her career right now. She's awesome. She is De'Aaron Fox. That's who she is. Every time I watch her play, she reminds me so much of De'Aaron Fox, the starting point guard for the Sacramento Kings. Left-handed, plays incredibly fast, can shoot the crap out of the ball from every part of the floor. I mean, she is incredible. And these, you know, she's playing, like I said, some of the best basketball of her career right now. She had 36 points Sunday against the Dallas Wings. 36, lighting it up, hitting threes, finishing at the rim, scoring in transition. Okay, she has done what every other Fever player is trying to do. She's just done it so much better. She has figured out the best ways to play off of Caitlin Clark, and it's really not that hard. Move out the ball on offense, and Caitlin Clark will find you, whether that's on cuts to the rim or, you know, running off of screens to get open for three. Like Kelsey Mitchell does that as well as anyone else on this Fever team. And she runs in transition. Like she moves so quickly. Like even if she gets a rebound, she gives it up to Clark. Clark takes 2 dribbles, gives it right back to her. And then guess what? Kelsey Mitchell gets a layup, and it's beautiful. Okay. And it is so nice to see how far we've come from the start of the year of, you know, like obviously everyone didn't buy into the Caitlin Clark hype. There was a lot of hatred towards her in the WNBA. I'd be willing to bet that there was even some in the Fever's locker room, right? Because let's be honest, like men and women are just naturally jealous of other people. And so just seeing us come to this point where Caitlin Clark has the full trust of her teammates, and part of that, I think, is because Caitlin Clark, I think, does a good job of deflecting attention, and I think she does a good job of shining a light on her teammates. Like that obviously helps her in getting her teammates to like her, but she's also just this excellent passer who is a point guard at heart. Like she really is, and that has been the most impressive thing that I've really seen from Caitlin. Right? Is like if Caitlin Clark wanted to, she could come down the floor and she could shoot 30 times a game and nobody would blink. Everyone would understand because she scores the ball so well and she shoots the living crap out of the ball. Like, everyone would understand if Caitlin Clark took 30 shots a game, but she doesn't. She gives the ball up. She is so incredibly selfless with the way that she plays basketball. And players like Aaliyah Boston and, as of right now, Kelsey Mitchell are greatly benefiting from that. And it's fun to play with people like that. It's fun to play with point guards that want to give the basketball up. It is an incredibly attractive trait. And when I think about the Fever, like, look, these WNBA women, they cannot like Caitlin Clark all they want. But we're going to see players want to come play here in Indiana just to play alongside Caitlin Clark. Okay, like, they're going to want to play with her because of her willingness and her ability to pass the basketball. Okay, and we're going to see the same thing with the Pacers too. Like, Tyrese Halliburton, his willingness and his ability to pass the basketball is something that people want to play with. Like, that is the type of point guard that people want to play with. And, the Pacers and the Fever are both going to be better because of that. Tomorrow, Wednesday, at 11 o'clock, Tony East is going to join me, and we're going to talk Fever, playoffs, all those things. That's tomorrow. But today, 11 o'clock, top of the hour, Zach Hicks of Locked On Colts is going to join me, as he always does on Tuesdays. We're going to talk Colts upcoming week 1, what we're excited to see, all those fun things. I'm going to run my Colts final 5 takes by him as well. Can't wait for that. That's coming up top of the hour at 11 o'clock. When we come back here in about 4 minutes, Top 10 Tuesday comes your way here in 4 minutes on The Real Jonathan Smith Show on Indy's Sports Ticket.
Unadulterated sports talk with unfiltered takes. It's the real Jonathan Smith Show on Indy Sports Ticket, 1430 AM and 99.5 HD2.
The real Jonathan Smith Show here on Indy Sports Ticket, top of the hour, 20 minutes away. Zach Hicks of Locked On Sports is set. Locked On Sports. Locked On Colts is set to join me to talk about the Colts, everything going on. Week 1 coming up. Colts, Texans, Sunday. Week 1 is here Thursday night. We are 2 days away from the start of the NFL season. And I'm so glad. I'm so glad. I love football. College football all weekend was great. More of it coming up this weekend. I am going to talk about what happened in college football over the weekend here in a minute, but I have to do Top 10 Tuesday first, as I promised. 10:40. Look at me paying off the tees. And so for today's Top 10 Tuesday, I'm talking about things that are overrated in sports, things that people overreact to, things that just don't matter as much as people think that they do, okay? And it bothers me when people go on and on and on about them. And I got to be honest, I was sitting at my computer last night and I was like, what am I going to do for Top 10 Tuesday? So I'm scrolling through Twitter, looking for stories, and I see, people overreacting to Caleb Williams being named a team captain as a rookie. He's a leader. Oh, he's such a leader. Look at that. Team captain as a rookie. People just fawning over him because of it. And this is one of the most overrated things in sports. It is like being named as a rookie. Look, every quarterback, regardless of their year, rookie, second year, 15th year, whatever it is, every quarterback is named a captain. Okay, that's just the way that these things work. But it never stops the fans of that fan base from overreacting to it. Never stops them. Okay, so being named a team captain as a rookie quarterback, I got to be honest, it bothers me when people do it. If people tell me about it and like how excited they are about it, I immediately chalk them up as this person doesn't know what they're talking about. Okay, because it's not a big deal. Is it a nice little touch? Sure. But if you think that someone's a leader just because they're named a captain as a rookie, like, look, every quarterback's named the captain. That's just kind of the way that it works. Okay, I know you know that, but there's some idiots out there who don't. Next, top 10 play appearances. And I think so much of sports consumption now is on social media. It's scrolling through Twitter, seeing this crazy John Morant dunk. It's seeing this incredible 80-yard touchdown run by Anthony Richardson. All right, and people get so excited about that stuff, and it leads them to overrate players. But let's be honest, like it's one play out of 120. Like it doesn't really carry that much weight. And like, let's be honest here. Look, I am very much in the we don't know how good Anthony Richardson is going to be boat. He could be great. He could be terrible. He could be decent. He could be below average. We don't know. But here's the truth of it. Anthony Richardson is going to do some incredible things this year that go viral on Twitter, that show up on SportsCenter's top 10 plays. And people are going to use that to support the idea that he's great. And the people who do that are dumb. No other way around it. And those people will bother me all year long because, a great play doesn't define who a player is. A series of great plays, okay, being able to do the boring things great, that defines who a player is, not some random play on a Sunday afternoon. Come on now. Come on. Top 10 play appearances. Overrated. Next, fantasy value. This is a huge pet peeve of mine. Fantasy football value does not equate to real life football value. Okay? For example, I have Anthony Richardson on my fantasy team this year because in fantasy land, he projects as a good fantasy quarterback because of his ability to run the ball. Okay? In real world football, you would probably take at least 15 quarterbacks before you took Anthony Richardson because real world football is very different from fantasy football. The best player in fantasy football is Christian McCaffrey. Love Christian McCaffrey. Great running back. One of the best running backs in the history of the NFL. But guess what? If you stripped every NFL team of all of their players and you gave the San Francisco Niners the 49ers, the first overall pick, guess what they would not do? They would not take Christian McCaffrey. They would take Patrick Mahomes. People who equate fantasy football value to real life football value upset me. Fantasy value is simply overrated. Next, quarterback wins and losses. I do not believe, well, I sometimes believe, wins are not always a quarterback stat. Okay, sometimes a quarterback is phenomenal, but his defense gives up 50 points. Sometimes that happens. Just ask Matthew Stafford. He was one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL when he played for Detroit, but Detroit was terrible, and so he didn't win a lot of games. Okay, wins and losses don't always reflect how good a quarterback is. For example, if Anthony Richardson is awesome this year and the Colts don't make the playoffs, it wouldn't be on him if he was awesome. If he threw for, 3,700 yards and he ran for another 700 and he had, 35 total touchdowns to like 8 turnovers. Like, I would say that's a great year from Anthony Richardson. But if the Colts go 9-8 with him doing that, and it's because their defense is terrible, then that shouldn't reflect poorly on Anthony Richardson. It would reflect poorly on the Colts secondary. Okay, so quarterback wins and losses, I think it's an overrated thing. I don't think wins are always a quarterback stat because football is the ultimate team game. Next thing that's overrated, tanking. Oh my gosh. Teams that tank just upset me. They do. Like, just because you have a high pick doesn't mean that high pick is going to be good. Okay? Like, just go to Google and type in top 10 busts of all time, and you're going to get 1,000,001 articles because great players in college or, whatever, don't always hit in the pros. That's just kind of the way that it works. Drafting is hard. It is. And also, great players fall in the draft all the time. All the time. Okay? So, tanking, it's an overrated thing. If I was teams, I would just try to win as many games as possible, figure out who's good, figure out who's bad, and work with your roster from there. Next, All-Star and Pro Bowl selections. Jeez. Look, if someone's, a 12-time All-Star, don't really care. If you're a 12-time Pro Bowl selection, don't even care. Because they are voted on by fans. All-Star games, Pro Bowls, it's just a popularity contest. That's really all that they are. Okay, I'm looking at all NBA selections. I'm looking at all pro selections for the NFL. I don't care about the Pro Bowl, especially the Pro Bowl, because so many guys don't play in the Pro Bowl. Okay, like, I got a buddy of mine, great friend, really nice guy, but he's not a Colts fan. And we were talking about the Colts over the weekend, and he made a comment about how the Colts couldn't make the playoffs last year with a Pro Bowl quarterback. And I was like, whoa, you mean like the 7th alternate? Like, Minshew was not originally selected to the Pro Bowl team, and then they offered it to someone else, and they're like, nah, I'm good. And then they offered it to another quarterback, and they're like, nah, I'm good. And eventually, they worked their way down the list, and they got to Gardner Minshew. So he was like the 7th alternate or whatever he was. Okay, Pro Bowl selections, All-Star selections, couldn't care less about him. Okay, when people try to throw that into, arguments and debates, it just annoys me because it's just a popularity contest. Don't care about All-Stars, don't care about Pro Bowls. Next, on this Top 10 Tuesday, we're doing overrated things in sports. Next is counting stats. Don't care for counting stats. I want to see averages when we're talking about the careers of players. Because look, counting stats can be impressive, but they mostly just point to how long you played for versus how good you actually were. Like Carmelo Anthony being in, the top 10 list of all-time points in the NBA. Like, yeah, Carmelo Anthony was a really good scorer, but he wasn't a better player than Moses Malone. His counting stats are just higher because he played in the NBA longer. So counting stats can be impressive, but I think that they are a tad bit overrated. The next overrated thing on this Top 10 Tuesday, where I just give you 10 of the most overrated things in sports, the new college football playoff. Regular season games don't matter anymore. It's kind of frustrating. I know that we have to give everyone their trophy. We have to put Penn State in as a 7 seed, and we have to put Notre Dame in as a 9 seed so that those fan bases are happy just to watch them get crushed by Ohio State or Georgia. Like, I know that we have to do that. Actually, no, I don't know that we have to do that. I don't really know why we have to do that, but it's an overrated thing that people are going to get excited about just for the games to be bloodbaths. So the new college football playoff, it's overrated. Next thing that's overrated. Preseason polls. Can't stand preseason polls. They're so dumb. Okay? Preseason polls are dumb. There's a reason why I believe it's the last 8 years. There's a reason why for the last 8 years in college football, a top 10 team has finished the year unranked. Hey, Florida State. Right? And then look, in the transfer portal era, college basketball, college football, college baseball even, players are moving around so much, no one knows who's good. Okay? Like let's be honest. Coming into this season, when we look at college football, we knew that Georgia was going to be good. We knew that Ohio State was going to be good because they're always good. That's the only thing that we knew for certain. The rest of it is just guesswork. Okay? That's just kind of how all that worked. Next, the assistant coaches of great coaches tend to be overrated. Okay, I'm going to tell you right now. It didn't matter who Bill Belichick's defensive coordinator was. The defense was always going to be good. Didn't matter who Nick Saban's defensive coordinator was. I'll never forget when Kirby Smart left Alabama, and he's obviously doing some great things at Georgia. I remember people being like, oh, is the Alabama defense going to take a step back? The answer was no, because Nick Saban was still there, okay? NFL, Andy Reid, like, their offense is always going to be good. Like, I could be the offensive coordinator of the Kansas City Chiefs, and the offense would still be awesome because Andy Reid's there. Okay, so those are just a few of the overrated things. Otter Creek calling me, quote, a certified Notre Dame hater. I wouldn't call myself a hater. I would just call myself a realist. They and Penn State are the exact same thing. They're the exact same. Okay, they play like one or two tough games a year, right? And they usually lose those tough games, and they beat all the teams that are bad. Okay, like my issue with Penn State and Notre Dame is it's the exact same thing. It's like we talk about them like they're Ohio State or Georgia or Alabama, and they're not. They're a tier below that. Now I would just like for us to discuss them like they are what they are, a tier below the best teams in college football. Okay, speaking of college football, week one takeaways, people are overreacting, pretty normal. Okay, let's start with Purdue and IU. They took care of business. I don't think we learned anything about either one of them. Seriously. Okay, Purdue won pretty handily against Indiana State. IU took care of business against FIU. We're not going to learn much about IU until week 5 because IU's schedule is so incredibly easy. Like, they're going to play Western Illinois this week. They should crush them. Okay, Purdue, they have a bye week this week, and then they host Notre Dame. So we're going to learn a lot about Purdue in week 3 when they play against Notre Dame. That game is in West Lafayette. Should be fun. Should be entertaining. Okay, back to IU. Like, once again, they don't play a real team until week 5 when they play Maryland, who I'm not even sure is going to be all that great. Like, sure, they play UCLA week 3, but UCLA barely beat Hawaii. Okay, UCLA looks like they're going to be the worst team in the Big Ten, so we're not going to learn much about IU until week 5. Unless they lose, then we'll learn that they're really bad. Moving on, Notre Dame defense, legit, which isn't a surprise because Marcus Freeman is a good defensive-minded head coach. The offense, though, needs some work. Okay, especially Riley Leonard, who was good at Duke last year. But if they want to, compete with the likes of Georgia and Ohio State, like the offense, specifically Riley Leonard, has to improve. Like, that has to get better. Okay? If not, then, they'll continue to be the Notre Dame that we all know. The team that beats all the bad teams and then gets crushed when they play against the upper echelon of college football. Okay? Just like Penn State. I said before the year that Florida State was going to be the top 10 team to finish the year unranked. Feel great about that right now. Okay? Lose to Boston College. They got crushed by Boston College last night. It was great. Back-to-back weeks of these nationally broadcasted games, and they get their doors blown off by Georgia Tech. And then Bill O'Brien and Boston College walk into Tallahassee and just give it to them. Oh, it was so great. Can't stand Florida State. So, yeah, feeling pretty good about that. Just following up on all of my takes, okay? I said that USC was going to be good this year. It looks like they're going to be. I'm not surprised that they beat LSU. Okay, Notre Dame fans know this better than anyone. Brian Kelly struggles to beat good teams. That hasn't changed since he showed up at LSU. LSU looking at another 9-3 season under Brian Kelly. Finally, I said that Miami would win the ACC this year. feel pretty great about that after Saturday. Then again, Florida's not very good, but Cam Ward looks like the best quarterback in the ACC. They've got weapons. They've got pass rushers. Hard not to like Miami in this weak ACC conference. Okay, Clemson got their doors blown off by Georgia, which surprised no one. Okay, they were kind of the big competition, them and Florida State. Florida State, obviously, 0-2. So Miami looks pretty good down there in South Florida. Mario Cristobal, man, that guy can coach. Coming up in 5 minutes, my guy, Zach Hicks, is set to join the show. Zach Hicks of Locked On Colts. We're talking Colts, baby. Week 1, Sunday. Can't wait to get into all that with him. That's coming your way here in 5 minutes on Indy's Sports Ticket.
Ladies and gentlemen, it's time for...
It's the Real Jonathan Smith Show on Indy's Sports Ticket, 1430 AM and 99.5 HD2.
What's going on? It's the Real Jonathan Smith Show. Hour number 2 on a Tuesday. It is not Monday. I almost forgot that. But since it's Tuesday, since it's 11 o'clock, Zach Hicks of Locked On Colts joins me. Zach, what's going on, man?
Oh, not much, man. Just getting ready for week 1 here coming up soon.
Dude, I'm so pumped up about it. Like, I can't wait for Thursday, which I'm ready for all of them. And on a scale of 1 to 10, how excited are you?
Oh, man. You know, it's funny. It doesn't really hit me until, like, the game is, like, minutes away from starting and you're actually watching, like, the pregame stuff or whatever. And it's like, oh, crap, like, the season's actually starting now. and even though, like, I tried to be, like, disconnected from the team because I have to cover the team and be objective in, like, my analysis, like, I get nervous for those first couple snaps, man. Like, I don't know what it is. And I know once the game gets going, I get as reactive as any fan is out there. But, oh, man, I get excited. I get nervous, like, get that pit in your stomach or whatever, even though you're not actually playing or anything like that. You're just watching. And it's like, oh, gosh, here we go again. Another season. And you just hope it's not like 2022 again. But,
Yeah.
you know what? It's going to be fun, man. It's going to be fun. I'm hoping for the best this year. Excited for this first game. That's going to be a massive test, and just can't wait to get it all going here on Sunday.
Me either. It's really fun. Like, I get a pit in my stomach for, like, my takes, if that makes sense. Like, if I say that something's going to happen and, like, it's not happening, then I get nervous. But, you know, whatever. Joined by Zach Hicks of Locked On Colts. Speaking of takes, I'm doing this, like, my final 5 shows leading up to the Colts' first game. I'm doing my final 5 takes for the Colts. And so I've given out 2 so far. They're pretty big. We swing big whenever we give out takes here. So my first one is I've got Anthony Richardson finishing the season with a 3-to-1 total touchdown to turnover ratio between, obviously, rushing and passing touchdowns and interceptions and fumbles. I think he finishes somewhere around 35 to 38 total touchdowns with around 11-ish turnovers. What do you kind of think about that? Is that too high of a bar, or what do you kind of think?
So it's funny. My co-host on Locked On Colts, we did our bold takes last night as well. So when you texted me, I was like, oh, perfect. This is exactly kind of what we're talking about here on this show. And he said Richardson around 35 touchdowns. He didn't do the touchdowns to turnovers, but he said 35 total touchdowns. And I don't think that's too outside the realm of possibility by any means. Like, especially when you factor in, like, quarterback rushing touchdowns the last couple of years have gone up exponentially. I mean, I think Josh Allen last year was at like 15 rushing touchdowns. And I want to say Jalen Hurts was probably close to 20 last year with those tush push ones where they get him in there from the 1 yard line. So if you factor in, like, Richardson last year had 4 rushing touchdowns through 3 1/4 games, you know, 2 games total, whatever it was that he ended up playing for the Colts. You know, it's a pretty good pace when it comes to rushing touchdowns. So if you're realistically saying, like, he could toss 20 to 25 and rush, you know, 10 to 15 or so, like, yeah, totally could see him hitting 35, 38 touchdowns. I do think there's going to be a few more turnovers from him, and that's mainly because, like, I'm not too worried about the interceptions because I do think he sees the field well, and, like, interceptions will happen, like, don't get me wrong, but I do think there will be some miscommunications that lead to picks. The one thing I'm actually worried about with him is kind of the fumbles. I'm a little nervous with the fumbles, like for what we saw in the preseason game, the hit from behind fumble. He had a couple fumbles last year in his couple games played. So if he can control the fumbles, yeah, he could definitely hit 3-to-1 on that touchdown interception ratio. I'm just a little nervous about those. But if we're talking about him hitting those 35 to 38 touchdowns, like, yeah, it's a little bit on the higher end, but it's not outside the realm of possibility when you have this 250-pound quarterback who runs a 4.4 and you can envision using him in the red zone for, you know, the QB run game and stuff. Like, he could easily hit 10 to 15 rushing touchdowns this year, and then just has to toss another 20 or so. And that's, you know, a perfectly good to borderline great season for him.
It really is. Like, if he finishes with 35 to, you know, 38 or whatever the number is, touchdowns on the year, like, the Colts should win a lot of games, I would think. Once again, joined by Zach Hicks of Locked On Colts. My second take was that I think someone other than Michael Pittman Jr. for the first time in 3 years will lead the Colts in receiving yards. And part of that is just the way that I think Steichen's going to run the offense. I think it's going to be a lot of like safe short throws or deep shots down the field. And when I think about Michael Pittman Jr., I feel like he's at his best and kind of those like intermediate routes where he's running over the middle. I think we're going to see him a lot on third down, but I think it's going to be a lot of like catch and run stuff to A.D. Mitchell and Josh Downs short, as well as some big shots over the top. What do you think about kind of someone else other than Michael Pittman Jr. leading the Colts in receiving yards this year?
Yeah, I think it's a good, bold take. I mean, if Josh Downs were completely healthy, I think this is a lot closer of a conversation. Like, we just don't know if he's going to miss this week, if he's going to be, a little bit hindered by that injury the first couple weeks, like whatever it's going to be. But if he were 100% healthy, like I think there's a realistic shot that Downs could be a 1,000 to 1,100 yard receiver this year. And it's not even really because like Downs is like that caliber receiver yet. I think he can be there, but just this offense, the way they use him, how they manufacture touches for him, how he's their separator in those underneath balls, like you just mentioned with the underneath game. I do think Downs would have had a great chance, or still does have a great chance. Like, I'm not trying to count him out right now, but Downs is certainly that guy that'll push Pittman. I do think it's realistic that he could lead the team in catches. It really just comes down to what he can do after the catch. So, yeah, I could totally see Josh Downs leading this team in receptions and receiving yards this year, just because he's going to be such a focal part of the offense when he gets back out there.
I completely agree. If I had to pick anyone to lead the Colts in receiving yards, it would be Downs. And you mentioned earlier that you guys did your big takes last night on Locked On Colts. So I'm curious. I don't want you to give them all away, but just give us your favorite one, and we can push people to your guys' podcast so that they can hear the rest.
Yeah, I've had one this whole offseason on defense. I'll do one on defense, one on offense here, but I've had one on defense this entire summer where I have Kwity Paye actually leading the Colts in sacks this year. And it's not really because he's going to be the best pass rusher. It's more so because Laiatu Latu and DeForest Buckner are going to be on the other side of the ball from him. And they're going to be such dominant forces in terms of just getting off their guys and creating pressure, where quarterbacks are going to be flushed out of the pocket to their right. And what we know about Kwity Paye is even if he's not getting off his guy, he's a really sound rusher and getting to his landmark in the backfield and knowing when to shed his blocker to just pull down quarterbacks for sacks. So I see Kwity Paye having like a 10 to 12 sack season, even if he's not like creating all those sacks for himself. I see him leading the team in sacks, even if he's not the best pass rusher. So that was my one on defense that I've kind of had pretty much all summer now. And then the one on offense, which I'm really liking, is I had the Colts being a top 3 rushing offense in the league this year. They were 10th last year in total yards. Some games were a little hit or miss when it comes to like the yards per carry and stuff. But I had them hitting top 3 in rushing yards just because I'm anticipating a massive season from Jonathan Taylor. I think this is the year where they feed him again. He's healthy. He finished last year on such a great note. He looked good in camp. And then you add in that QB rushing element of whatever Richardson's going to add on the ground, plus the threat of Richardson on the ground. When you add those two factors together, I think the Colts have a real chance to be, top 3, if not the best rushing offense in football this year. I do not think that's outside the realm of possibility. And we know how Shane Steichen gets in the second half of games. When the run game is working, he'll call 20 straight runs like we saw against the Pittsburgh Steelers. Like, he will lean on that run game. And when you have a guy like Jonathan Taylor who can create so much when the ball's in his hands, I really think that there's a good chance that this could be the best rushing offense in football.
Joined by Zach Hicks of Locked On Colts. I like both of those, especially the Kwity Paye thing. There's been just a lot of talk that he's in fantastic shape, the best shape that he's been in. Also, a contract year. Guys tend to play a little bit harder when they want that, fifth-year extension. So I really like that. I think he was good last year. He just he had 8.5 sacks last year, or 8, whatever it was. And like that was in limited snaps. Like the Colts rotate in a lot of defensive linemen. So I like the take there on Kwity Paye. The rushing offense thing, I think you're exactly right on. Like between Richardson and Jonathan Taylor, obviously they both have to stay healthy. But if they do, I don't see a scenario where that's, out of the realm of possibilities of them being a top 3 or even the best rushing, team in the NFL. The only thing is, because you have them as a potential top 3 rushing team, I'm assuming you think they're going to be pretty good, because I think the other thing would be, obviously, if they're down late, they aren't going to run the ball as much. So
Yeah.
do you kind of expect for the Colts to be a 11-6, 10-7 kind of team this year?
Yeah, I mean, look, when we get closer to the season, we get more optimistic, obviously. We ride the wave of optimism, obviously, up until the first week. And then the second they start trailing in the week 1 game is when it all comes crashing down. But no, you ride that wave. I have them at like 10-7. I think that there's plenty of winnable games. My not even like a bold take, just my overall take on this Colts team throughout all of summer has been, the first half of the season or so, this team's going to start kind of slow just because they have a couple tough games in there. Richardson's going to get the rust off, and he's going to try to figure out his game throughout the way. But when that schedule just eases up in the second half of the season, especially those final 5 games, and Richardson starts getting comfortable, this team's going to make a late push for the playoffs. So I have them at like 10-7 right now. I could see a 9-8. I could see 11-6, but I think where you're really going to see this team take off, especially on offense, is in those final 5, 6, 7 games. They're going to be able to run the ball in the cold weather, and I think they're going to be able to do a lot of great things down late in the season. Just hopefully it's enough to push them into the playoffs, because I think, obviously when you're a coach, you approach every game as winnable, but I think if you're realistically looking at this Colts team, it's like just manage to stay around 500 until those last 5 games, and then you have a chance to really break out. But yeah, I do have them at 10-7 right now. I think it's going to be a tough race in that division. A lot of good teams, and I think the Colts are right there with the rest of the teams.
Joined by Zach Hicks of Locked On Colts. I'm with you. I think 10-7, somewhere around there. I think that's the right number. And you mentioned Anthony Richardson not getting comfortable till late in the season. With that in mind, how conservative do you think the play calling is going to be for Richardson on Sunday when the Colts play their first game?
I think it'll be more aggressive than what it was in week 1 last year. If we look at just the passing chart and the play calls that Steichen called against the Jaguars in that week 1 game last year, it was a lot of RPOs, a lot of checkdowns, a lot of throwing to his right, kind of keeping things controlled in front of him. And then we saw the playbook open up a little bit for Richardson in the games after that. I think obviously the big turning point was in that Rams game where the first half is not going the way the Colts wanted. Second half, Steichen finally opens it up for Richardson and says, you know what, we're calling some vertical shots. You do what you do best and rip the ball down the field. And then we saw that carry forward a little bit into the Titans game before he left early with that injury, where they were calling a little bit more down the field, doing a little bit more full field stuff with him. And I think it's going to be kind of a mix of that. And, you still want to keep things a little tempered early on just to get the rust off. But I do think it's going to be closer to what we saw with that Rams game and Titans game, more so than what we saw with the Jaguars game, where, they kind of have the training wheels a little bit on him in that first game. I don't think, for a second-year quarterback, you're going to have as much of those reservations and training wheels on him. I think they're going to let him rip it. They're obviously going to lean on the RPO and lean on the run game a little bit. But at the end of the day, it's a second-year quarterback. He's been in your system for a while. I know he hasn't been healthy, but he's in your system now. He should be ready to go, and there shouldn't be as much to do with the training wheels in year 2 of Anthony Richardson.
Yeah, that's how I feel about it. I'm excited to see how he looks on Sunday. I'm excited to see how aggressive they end up being with specifically the passing game, because we know that they're going to look to run the ball. Besides Richardson, Latu, and A.D. Mitchell, which player are you most excited to see play on Sunday?
Yeah, I mean, we're talking big names. I think Jonathan Taylor is obviously the big one, not only because I have him in fantasy leagues, because I'm expecting that big year from him, but just because I got to see where he's if he can just carry the momentum he had late last season into this first game. And it doesn't have to be a 200-yard rushing performance or anything like that, but if he looks like how he did in that final game last year, my expectations for this Colts team just fly up even more, because I'm kind of working off optimism with him right now that he can look like that Jonathan Taylor consistently. But if he looks that way out the gate in this game in a big divisional matchup against the Houston Texans and can kind of carry this offense, to hopefully victory in this one, then my expectations for what this offense can do, I just got to see what he can look like out there. But if we're looking lesser names, guys like Julian Blackmon and Nick Cross at safety, Really curious to see how those two safeties look out there against obviously one of the best young quarterbacks in football and CJ Stroud. Can they take away those middle of the field throws? Can they eliminate the deep ball? Because look, CJ Stroud last year was like the most efficient deep ball thrower in football. And it was kind of an anomaly how efficient he was at that, but also he's a good quarterback. And so it's hard to say like there's going to be regression there, but hopefully this Colts team could stay on top of those balls, make the efficiency drop off a little bit, and make him have to really pepper the underneath stuff where he wasn't as efficient as a rookie last year. So yeah, mostly those safeties on defense and obviously the corners on defense, but on offense, man, Jonathan Taylor can just carry that momentum forward and look like that Jonathan Taylor again. I mean, watch out. Like the potential's there. I just got to see it. And I'm obviously optimistic about it, but seeing it is a whole different animal, obviously, on Sunday.
Joined by Zach Hicks of Locked On Colts. Jonathan Taylor, that's a great answer. For me, I don't think excited is the right word, but Nick Cross is the guy that I feel like my eyes are going to be glued to as much as possible because so much of the Colts' success defensively, not just on Sunday, but I think throughout the season in general, is dependent on how he looks at safety and dependent on how Juju Brents and Jalen Jones look at corner. I think we know what we're going to get from Richardson. I think we know we're going to get some big plays in the run game. We know we're going to get some big plays in the passing game, but we're also going to get some mistakes. Like I think people kind of know what to expect. But the defense, it's like, what is the secondary going to look like? I think that's kind of the biggest question mark that the Colts have. That being said, how many passing yards do you think they're going to give up on Sunday? Because I feel like it's going to be quite a bit.
Yeah, it's funny. Like the two matchups they had against Texans last year, I think Stroud combined for like 600 yards passing. Now, a lot of those passing yards in the first matchup came in the second half, where it was a 3-score game the entire second half, and it just really wasn't remotely competitive. So, a lot of garbage time stuff, but, Stroud still had some of his most effective throwing days against the Colts last year. But it wasn't like unstoppable. Like again, his most unstoppable stretch against the Colts was that second half of that blowout in week 2. So maybe I'm being a little optimistic, but I don't see it being like a 400 or 500 yard game or something like some people are saying. Like I know on paper it's not a great matchup for the Colts. Like I'm not going to sit here and deny that, but I think it'll be like high 200s, maybe low 300s, which is not good by any means, but I don't think it'll be like this historic like bludgeoning or anything like that. I could be having to, eat crap like that Florida State dude on this, but I don't think it'll be that. Like I think the Colts on offense on their side of the ball will be able to control the game enough with the running game and kind of keeping things a little bit in control that way to where the Texans hopefully don't get enough possessions on offense for Stroud to completely light up the scoreboard. But I think it'll be a competitive game. I think the Colts will make some plays and hopefully make enough plays just to slow Stroud down because, I don't want to get to this level with Stroud yet because I don't think he's near that like Mahomes or Allen or whatever tier. I think he's getting there, but like, obviously we need to see a whole nother year from him. But I do think there is a degree of, we just got to contain him. Like he's going to get his yards. He's going to move the ball on offense. As long as we can keep them out of the end zone, though, like we have a chance because, again, he's going to move the ball. He's going to complete passes. He's going to make a handful of passes every game that, like, not many quarterbacks can make. But, like, as long as you can keep him out of the end zone, keep things in front, holding the field goals, you have a chance to win. I think that's really the key here. It's like, I don't care if he throws for 500 yards as long as it's only 1 touchdown or 0 touchdowns. That's all that matters. But as long as the Colts stay over top the deep ball and they stand tall in the red zone, I think the Colts will be fine. I don't really care how many yards he ends up throwing at the end of the day. And I don't think it'll be like 400 or 500. But again, like I said, it might be like the Florida State kid, and I might be eating some crap on that one there.
Joined by Zach Hicks of Locked On Colts. I feel pretty similar. I like you said, I think that the Colts are going to run the ball, try to shorten the game. There's got to be, you would think, an emphasis on not allowing these deep balls to connect. So I do think that, the Colts are going to have a decent game plan set. I'm zagging on the Texans. Everybody really loves them. Look, like I went back, I was looking at their record last year. They went 10-7. 8 of their wins came against teams that didn't make the playoffs. Like they only beat 2 teams that made the playoffs. I think one of them was Pittsburgh, who, wasn't great by any standard last year. And I don't remember who the other one was. So, and the
I think
other
it
thing
was
is
Tampa. They beat in overtime, right? Wasn't it?
that sounds
I think it
right.
was Tampa.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
so it's like
Yeah.
the teams they beat, like really weren't even that great that made the playoffs. And so first place schedule this year. I know people love Stroud, but once again, like easy schedule last year. I don't think Stephon Diggs is going to help that much. I think he's going to kind of hurt them more than anything, just in terms of like this 30-year-old receiver who's kind of declining. I think there's going to be pressure on Stroud to get him the ball, and I don't think that helps. Kind of like a Baker Mayfield 2019 scenario where when Odell Beckham Jr. showed up, he got worse, and then when Odell Beckham got hurt the following year, he was much better just because you don't have this diva receiver that's very well established demanding the ball. So I've got the Texans going 8-9 this year. I don't think they're going to be as good as what everyone kind of expects. With that being said, do the Colts break this streak of not winning week 1 games on Sunday? What do you kind of think?
I feel better about breaking this streak than I do breaking the at Jacksonville streak. So
Me too.
that's a plus right there. I actually always wish that this game is in Jacksonville just so we can combine the two streaks and never have to, we can just have the one loss instead of the two. But
Yeah.
no, look, I'm optimistic. I think this team is really well coached. I really like what Shane Steichen's brought to this team. I think that there is that like revenge feel to this where, we let that one slip away last year in our own building. Now we're getting the exact same opponent in our own building. They have all the hype their way, but there's that like underdog feel to it. I don't like, again, I'd probably lean Texans in this one, but like, I do think it's a tighter game than what people are expecting. Like, what was it I saw on Twitter the other day? Someone said like 85 or 90% of the bets or whatever are to the Texans at -2.5 or something. Which I think is just crazy because the Colts were +7 in the 2 games against the Texans last year when their backup quarterback was playing like 80% of the snaps in those 2 games. And Jonathan Taylor was only available in one of them. And, it's like, I don't know. I know things change a lot from year to year, but the biggest thing I can really say about this game is the best time to ever face a really good team. And that's what, again, people are thinking the Texans are going to be this really good team. The best time to ever face them is week 1 because the results are so skewed and just crazy in week 1 because teams are shaking the rust off. So if you're a team like the Colts where you're coming into this game hungry, looking for revenge as the underdog, the one that's not expected to win this game, you couldn't ask for anything more from a week 1 game. So I wouldn't be shocked if the Colts win this one. Like, again, I'd probably still lean Texans just because they made all those moves to go all in and Stroud's coming off a big year and Richardson's going to have to shake off some rust. But I really wouldn't doubt the Colts in this one. I think they can run the ball really well against this Texans team. And as long as their defense can stay over top of the deep ball, like they can certainly put up more points than the Texans in this one. So don't sleep on the Colts this week. Don't sleep. I know the betting markets are saying bet Texans, but I wouldn't sleep on the Colts, especially in a divisional game in week 1. I think there's a really good chance that they could break that streak.
As of right now, I like the Colts. We got a guy who comes on Dan's show. His name is, or he's called the Sack Man. He's this really good gambler, and his whole thing is fade the public. And the public, as you said, loves the Texans. Like the Texans opened as 1-point favorites. Last time I checked, the lines moved all the way up to 2.5. So people love them. So as of right now, I'm kind of like, let's just fade everybody. Let's go Colts. Let's get rid of this streak. And I'm excited for it. As of right now, I like the Colts. I'll probably change my mind by Friday. We'll see. But as of right now, I'm with you. I don't think this game's going to be as lopsided as everyone else thinks.
Yeah. My big thing when it comes to betting, I don't really do much actual betting, but when we talk like betting on the show and stuff like that, because we have the sponsors, like I'm always like, I'll pick the team against the Colts. So I'm either right or I'm happy.
Yeah.
Like there's no
the emotional hedge.
I have the emotional hedge and everything. It's like in fantasy football, I always like pick up the defense playing against the Colts or something. Just so like I'm gonna be happy regardless.
Yeah.
Like if my defense gets bludgeoned, that means the Colts probably won. So we're good. You guys got it all emotionally hedged. I think that's the key to being a football fan. Emotional hedge every single week, and you'll be good. But no, seriously, I think the Colts have a good chance. I really think they're gonna be able to run the ball in this one. And like you said, man, like when all the hype is for a team in the offseason, like everyone has them as Super Bowl contenders, like taking this next step. They get a week 1 road game against a divisional opponent. Like if we were in that situation, like we were that team, we'd be nervous about the trap game.
Yeah.
Like this is setting up to be a trap, especially when it's, again, the team that you had to beat in week 18 to go to the playoffs. So I would watch out on the Texans here. Look, again, I'm not guaranteeing a Colts win, but I do think this is going to be closer than what people think.
Yeah, I'm completely with you, Zach. I'm over on time. Thanks for your time, dude. You're awesome as always. I'm so ready for next Tuesday because we'll be done with speculation. We'll talk about what actually happened, and it's going to be awesome, Zach. Thanks for your time, man.
Yep. All right. See you, buddy.
See ya. That is Zach Hicks of Locked On Colts. As he said, they did a big prediction podcast over there for Locked On Colts. I think that came out yesterday. So if you want his big swings on the season, check that out. I'm going to continue to give you big Colts takes leading up to their first game on Sunday. Cannot wait to continue to give you those. But when we come back here in 4 minutes, Caitlin Clark dominated over the weekend. Have many, many thoughts on that. That's coming your way here in 4 minutes.
More winners, more often. It's the real Jonathan Smith Show on Indy's Sports Ticket, 1430 AM and 99.5 HD2.
The real Jonathan Smith Show here on Indy's Sports Ticket. Zach Hicks joining me in that last segment to talk a ton of Colts. Obviously, first game of the year is coming up on Sunday. Oh, man. Cannot wait. Cannot wait for Sunday. 1 o'clock. Going to be an absolute blast. Thursday night, also going to be a blast. Amazon Prime, the Kansas City Chiefs taking on the Baltimore Ravens. Oh, man, just all the great things happening. But speaking of great things happening, let's go back to the weekend. A lot of college football, but also a lot of Indiana Fever basketball. Started on Friday night when Caitlin Clark went on the road and once again just dominated Angel Reese in the Chicago Sky. Just absolutely dominated. Caitlin Clark outplayed Angel Reese, which was a surprise to no one. And the Fever won by 19 on the road. It's incredible. Caitlin Clark scored 31 points on 8 of 14 shooting on Friday night. And she also had 12 assists. I mean, everything that makes us like Caitlin Clark, we got on Friday night. We also got it on Sunday, which I'll get into here in a moment. Tons of deep threes, incredible passing, just like showing everyone why she's heads and shoulders above Angel Reese. Like, she is incredible. Incredible. She should be the unanimous rookie of the year, and she should also receive some votes to win the MVP. She won't win the MVP. That award belongs to Asia Wilson, the best player in the WNBA. Like, she's incredible. Okay, plays for the Aces. If you hadn't seen her, she had 41 and 17 over the weekend. If that doesn't tell you how good of a player she is. Okay, so Caitlin Clark, clearly better than Angel Reese, while Caitlin Clark is the engine of this Indiana Fever team, doing all these amazing things for their offense. Angel Reese had to play in garbage time in order to secure her double-double of a whopping 10 points and 11 rebounds. She's just, Angel Reese is a fine player. She's a role player right now. Like, that's what she is. She's not a star. Okay, she is a role player. Like, I hate the comparison of Caitlin Clark and Angel Reese to Larry Bird and Magic Johnson, because Magic Johnson and Larry Bird were dominant stars the moment that they walked into the NBA. Like, Caitlin Clark, certified star, no doubt. Angel Reese, though, she's a role player. Like, that's what she is. Okay, and the fact that there's any sort of discussion, the fact that there are people out there trying to tell me and you that for whatever reason Angel Reese could potentially be the rookie of the year, like, that's incredible to me. It's incredibly stupid. That's what it is. Okay? Caitlin Clark should be the unanimous rookie of the year, and if Friday didn't prove it, when we got to see Angel Reese and Caitlin Clark on the floor together, then I don't know what will. Maybe Sunday's performance by Caitlin Clark will. 28 points, 12 assists. It looked like the Fever were once again going to lose to the Dallas Wings, but Caitlin Clark was like, not so fast. And then she had 28 points and 12 assists, shot 10 of 19 from the floor. Just single-handedly carried the Fever over the hump for that victory. Okay, she is one of the 5 best players in the WNBA already. She's hands down the best rookie. She should be the unanimous rookie of the year. Okay, she is incredible, and she's making her teammates better. So much better. It's so impressive to watch. And I think one of the biggest benefiters of this Caitlin Clark dominance is Kelsey Mitchell, who's playing the best basketball of her career right now. I can't wait until tomorrow. Tony Issa said you join me at 11 o'clock to talk Fever. A little bit about the Pacers as well. TJ McConnell got extended over the weekend, which is great, but Kelsey Mitchell playing the best basketball of her career right now. She had 36 against the Wings on Sunday. She had 23 against the Sky on Friday. Like, the girl can just score. She plays with just an incredible amount of speed. She shoots the crap out of the ball. Like, she's just simply an amazing basketball player that I've had a lot of joy watching as the season has progressed. It's great. Love watching this Fever team. Hopefully they keep it rolling into the playoffs. They're currently the 6th seed. Last I checked, they were 2.5 games back of the 5 seed, which it'll be tough for them to grab that, but I do like for them to hold on to the 6th seed, so which means they'll either play the Connecticut Sun or the Minnesota Lynx in the first round. Should be wildly entertaining. I kind of hope they play the Lynx because that's the Olympic head coach's team. We'll see how that all kind of pans out. But I'm excited for it, but not as excited as I am for this upcoming NFL season. Week 1 starts on Thursday night. Going to be great. Colts, their first game is on Sunday. When we come back here in 4 minutes, I've got more final 5 takes for the Colts, final 5 takes for the NFL season. That is all coming your way here in about 4 minutes.
Often imitated, never duplicated. It's the real Jonathan Smith Show on Indy Sports Ticket, 1430 AM and 99.5 HD2.
The real Jonathan Smith Show here on Indy Sports Ticket. Thanks for tuning in. The Dan Dockett Show starts here in about 20 minutes right here on Indy Sports Ticket, 1430. Make sure you download that Indy Sports Ticket app to listen to the Dan Dockett Show. Now, Leading up to the start of the Colts season, I'm doing this bit called Final 5 Takes. So I'm giving you a big Colts take every day. Give my first one last week on Friday. So that Anthony Richardson was going to finish with a 3-to-1 touchdown to turnover ratio. So that's rushing touchdowns and passing touchdown compared to fumbles and interceptions. Today's big Colts take is that Michael Pittman Jr. will not lead the Colts in receiving yards this next season. Okay, the Colts are much better at receiver this year than they were last year. Michael Pittman Jr. was hands down the Colts' best wide receiver. Okay, Josh Downs as a rookie was good. Not great, though. Okay, like I still really feel like Michael Pittman Jr. was the only guy that they really trusted last year, especially since Alec Pierce could only run straight down the field. That's all he could do. He couldn't run routes. He could just run straight. So things are a little bit different this year. Okay, yes, of course, Michael Pittman Jr. is back. He got paid in the offseason, all those things. But Josh Downs should be better in year 2. Alec Pierce apparently looks better than he ever has. So we'll see how that works. A.D. Mitchell, he's obviously going to get a lot of looks, right? You don't spend a second-round pick on a guy like that if you're not going to put him on the field. And then, I think Anthony Gould is going to get some looks as well. Like, this is a deep Colts wide receiver room. And Shane Steichen highlighted that during his press conference yesterday.
Yeah, that's a good question. I think within our scheme, with any scheme, you can line guys up wherever you want to. AD obviously played a little bit outside. He's been playing a little bit inside for us. Downs can play. He played inside for us. He can play outside. Alec can play inside, play outside. So I think the versatility of that group in a whole is really good. And we can put those guys where need be throughout a game plan that we feel really comfortable with all those guys' skill sets. So feel really good about the wide receiver group for sure.
Shane Steichen there talking about this Colts wide receiver group. There's a lot of talent on that team. So much talent on that team. And because the Colts are so much better wide receiver this year, Michael Pittman Jr., I just don't think he's not going to get the same amount of targets. He's going to have less receptions. And because of that, his receiving yards will go down. And unlike the last 3 years, he will not lead the Colts in receiving yards. He'll still have an impact on the offense. Wouldn't be surprised if he led the Colts in receptions, but he will not lead in receiving yards. I think we're going to see him a lot on third down because of the type of receiver that he is. Michael Pittman Jr. is an intermediate possession receiver. Okay, he's a guy who is at his best when he's running, 10 to 12-yard routes over the middle. Okay, like that's who he is. And I just don't think that that's the way that this Colts offense is going to work this year. There are really 2 reasons why I think that Michael Pittman Jr. will not lead the Colts in receiving yards. One is he's not a big play wide receiver. He's not. I think we're going to see a lot of big plays from the Colts offense this year, from Josh Downs, A.D. Mitchell. We've seen Alec Pierce make big plays down the field before. I'm sure he'll make some this year. Shane Steichen, when you look at his offenses when he was with the Chargers and the Eagles, they want layups and big plays. Like that is what they want. Okay, they want easy throws and they want explosive plays down the field. He has said that. Shane Steichen has also said this offseason that there weren't enough explosive plays last year. Love Michael Pittman Jr. I think he's a good wide receiver, but he's not a big play threat. He's not. So I don't think that we're going to see him rack up, 30 yards on a reception. Like we aren't going to see that. It's going to be a lot of like 8 to 12-yard receptions when it comes to Michael Pittman Jr. Right? And on top of that, Shane Steichen, big plays or easy throws. When we look at, the strength of these Colts receivers, the guys that are going to separate underneath are the guys that are incredibly fast. Josh Downs, A.D. Mitchell, which means a lot of catch and run stuff for those guys. And Michael Pittman Jr. is not a catch and let me run for another 12-yard receiver. He just doesn't have the speed to do that. Right? Like that doesn't play to his strength. So the way that the Colts want to throw the ball this year doesn't appeal to what Michael Pittman Jr. does at his best. The second reason why Michael Pittman Jr. will not lead the Colts in receiving yards this year is because the quarterback's different. Gardner Minshew and Anthony Richardson are obviously very different quarterbacks. Richardson with the running ability and the athleticism. Okay, Gardner Minshew a little bit more of a pocket guy, but also the way that they throw the ball is different. Okay, Gardner Minshew is just a more polished quarterback than Anthony Richardson is right now. Okay, and polished quarterbacks bode best for Michael Pittman Jr. and what his skill set is. Like Gardner Minshew was able to find Michael Pittman Jr. on those 10 to 12 yard routes, right? He was able to find him on curls and all those things. The things that Michael Pittman Jr. is really good at. Anthony Richardson, I don't think that's what he's good at yet. I don't think he's good at layering balls over linebackers and doing those things. Okay, Anthony Richardson, I think that the offense this year is going to look pretty similar to what Shane Steichen wants it to be. Short underneath routes, followed by big bombs down the field. That's what I think we're going to see from this offense, and that's what Anthony Richardson is good at. I don't think we're going to see a lot of Richardson sitting back in the pocket, surveying the field, and throwing 12-yard in routes to Michael Pittman Jr., because that's just not what Anthony Richardson's very good at yet. Okay, he's going to throw the ball deep down the field, and he's going to hit guys short underneath on slants and drags and routes like that. That's what we're going to see from Richardson, and that just doesn't play into what Michael Pittman Jr. does well. Meanwhile, those throws deep downfield and those short crossers and drag routes and slants do play into the strengths of A.D. Mitchell and Josh Downs. Okay, those are two players that can win with speed down the field, and they're two guys that can separate in these underneath routes because of how fast they are. Because of that, they're going to get the bulk, I think, of the primary underneath targets, and because of their speed, they're going to make these big chunk plays. Okay, if I had to bet on who I thought was going to lead the Colts in receiving yards this year, it would probably be Josh Downs, even if he doesn't play week 1. I think we're going to see him a lot this year on those underneath routes where he can kind of separate. And I think we're going to see him make some big plays down the field as well, because once again, the dude is incredibly fast. Okay. Michael Pittman Jr., he'll still have his touch on the offense. Okay. I think he's going to be a really reliable third down guy, but instead of being, 100 reception guy for 1,100 yards like he was last year, I think we're going to see him be an 80 to 90 reception guy with somewhere between 800 and 900 yards receiving. Whereas from Josh Downs, he'll probably be around the same 80 to 90 receptions, but for over 1,000 yards, because he's just going to make bigger plays with the ball in his hands due to how athletic he is. Okay. Now, while I'm doing 5 big takes leading up to the Colts season, I'm doing the same thing for the NFL. So last week I did 2 on Thursday. I said that the Texans were going to go 8-9 and that Stephon Diggs was going to hurt the Texans. And I also said that the Jacksonville Jaguars were going to win the AFC South. Today's big take for just the NFL in general is that the Chiefs and the Lions will be the 1 seeds. Okay? The Chiefs, not a hard one to get behind. Okay, this feels like an easy prediction, but it's the right one. Okay, the Chiefs were the 3 seed in the AFC last year, despite being second to last in turnover differential at -11. Okay, I've talked a bit about turnover differential on the show. It's something that kind of fluctuates from year to year. If you're really bad one year, you tend to go back to the average the following year. Okay, and look, the Chiefs gave away 11 fumbles last year. That's a lot. That probably won't happen again. And Patrick Mahomes threw 14 interceptions. I think part of that was because the receivers weren't very good for the Chiefs last year. They've upgraded in that room. Okay, so the Chiefs are going to be much improved. It's year 2 of Rashee Rice. Doesn't look like he's going to get suspended. Xavier Worthy is going to scare teams with his speed. Juju Smith-Schuster's back. They got rid of Kadarius Toney. They are much better in that wide receiver room. You say, oh, well, what about the offensive line? They apparently drafted their left tackle of the future as well, because they're the Chiefs, and of course they did. The offense is going to be improved this year for Kansas City. It's okay, well, what about defense? They lost L'Jarius Sneed. Doesn't matter. They still have a ton of guys on defense that are going to be great for Kansas City. Trent McDuffie, he's one of the best corners in the NFL. Nick Bolton's one of the best linebackers in football. Chris Jones, now that Aaron Donald has retired, he's the best, interior defensive lineman in the NFL. Steve Spagnuolo's still there. Okay, a guy who's won more Super Bowls as a coordinator than any other coordinator in the history of the NFL. Okay, with 4. That defense is going to continue to be one of the best in the NFL. They're the best team in the AFC. I don't think anyone would really push back on that. Let's move to the NFC, where things are a little more interesting. Lions are going to be the 1 seed. Okay, their team is almost identical to last year. They kept their 2 coordinators, which is a big deal. I would argue that the Lions have the best coordinator combination in the NFL. Okay, everyone thought that at least one of them, if not both of them, would leave for head coaching jobs. They both took interviews. They both turned down the job offers that they got to return to Detroit. Neither of them left. On offense last year, they didn't have any holes. Multiple good running backs, multiple good wide receivers. Jared Goff was great last year with great play calling and arguably the best offensive line in football. Okay, that offense is the exact same. They're going to be loaded once again on the offensive side of the football. And then defensively, their weakness last year was their secondary. So guess what they did? The Lions went out and they got a bunch of secondary guys. Okay, they are arguably the best roster in the NFL. They have a better roster than San Francisco. Okay, they have great coordinators. Dan Campbell's a good coach. Love how aggressive he is. He has this incredible skill of getting his players to play hard. Okay, like I'm telling you, the Lions are going to be the 1 seed in the NFC. And your question would probably be, well, what about Jared Goff? Because I think that the narrative around him is wrong. I think he's developed into a really good quarterback, right? He's not Mahomes. He's not Josh Allen. He's not Lamar. He's kind of on that tier below. Like he's better than Dak Prescott. Okay. Like Ben Johnson has done an excellent job with developing Jared Goff. Jared Goff was second in passing yards last year with over 4,500. He was fourth in touchdown passes with 30. And his touchdown to interception ratio was 5-2. He played great last year. And Jared Goff has an incredibly favorable schedule this year. When you look at the Lions' schedule and you think about Jared Goff, you want to play games in domes because he doesn't have a big arm. And, going on the road when it's cold and you got to throw the ball in cold weather is hard. And when we look at Jared Goff, he didn't have to do that this year. The Lions only play 3 games outside all year. 14 of their 17 games are played in domes. Week 9, they go to Lambeau. Week 16, they go to Chicago. Week 17, they go to San Francisco. Every other week, they are in a dome, which is going to help the Lions in that offense. Okay, playing in a dome, so much easier for offenses than it is playing outside. That's an advantage for the Lions. They have an awesome roster. They have great coordinators, and Jared Goff has gotten so much better since he arrived in Detroit. They're going to be the 1 seed in the NFC, and the Chiefs will be the 1 seed in the AFC. Okay, and because of that, because the Lions are going to be the 1 seed and the Chiefs are going to be the 1 seed, that means that either Jared Goff or Patrick Mahomes is going to win the MVP award. Okay, the quarterback of the 1 or 2 seed in the AFC or NFC usually wins the MVP. 7 of the last 10 players to win the MVP award have been the quarterback of the 1 seed in either conference. Okay, look, I don't have to sell you on the idea that Patrick Mahomes is going to win. It could win the MVP. But look, Jared Goff put up better numbers than Patrick Mahomes did last year. And even though the receivers in Kansas City are better, like the weapons around Jared Goff are better than the ones around Patrick Mahomes right now. Okay, Jared Goff put up better numbers than Patrick Mahomes did last year. And that obviously matters for who wins MVP. So if you want, I don't want to say dark horse or long shot, but Jared Goff is undoubtedly a guy who could win the MVP this year in the NFL. Okay, like he put up MVP level numbers last year. He could definitely do it again this year. And look, if the Lions are going to be the 1 seed in the NFC, which they are, then he'll have to put up MVP level numbers once again. That's going to do it for the Real Jonathan Smith Show. Thank you for tuning in, no matter how you tuned in, whether that was Twitter. Follow me there at __ Jonathan Smith. Maybe you watched on YouTube. Head over there, Indie Sports Ticket, subscribe, join the chat. Next Monday, it's going to be incredible. The chat will be coming off of the Colts' first game of the season. I can't wait. Okay, first game Sunday. Dan Dockett Show's coming up, here in about 5 minutes or so. Sean Salisbury is set to join at 1, radio guy out of Houston who does a great job. They're going to talk Colts. Texas Power Hour should be happening today with the one and only Kent Sterling. I mean, the Dan Dockett Show's loaded today. It's loaded up. It's ready to go. Join tomorrow from 10 to noon. Tony East is set to join me at 11 o'clock tomorrow to talk Fever and Pacers. Thank you again for tuning into the Real Jonathan Smith Show. I'll be back on the air tomorrow from 10 to noon, and I will talk to you guys then. Have a good one.